Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of gold and silver. We're going to go over the dollar, the 10-year yield, precious metals, and then the companies themselves to gauge what's going on in this sector. Again, this is just my financial opinion. Please don't use it as advice. We'll dive in here. I'll let the charts do the talking. Here we go. So this is the DXY. DXY is the dollar index. I put a watermark in the middle, so hopefully you guys can see that. You can see that DXY US dollar currency index. Should be loud and clear on what we're looking at, so that's good. So I added the watermark. Dollar basically moving sideways. We've got some support underneath here, and we're doing a little bit of bounce. Sometimes that means that we could potentially fall down. What we want to look for is a move higher and a lower high in a potential squeezing of this bottom line for a move lower, if it's going to move lower. If we're moving higher, then we got to break this line up there. I'm not in the game of predictions. I'm in the game of where we can get shares with a good probability bet for a move higher. But dollar's been moving sideways. The 10-year yield TNX, we've broken above this support resistance line. It's support now, but it used to be resistance. We came up, a little bit of sideways action today. I do think that this will eventually continue higher, given what I think is going to happen in oil and the housing starts. The housing starts have increased. That is inflationary. So I think the inflation will drag interest rates higher with it. That is creating the conditions that I think are good for gold and precious metals in general. Gold was down today, down $21 is what I'm seeing, about $19.20 or so. We're bouncing sideways. We've got support right underneath it. Right underneath it. We got to see if this support line holds. This is kind of a more bearish looking pattern. Usually what you see is when you come down in price, you want to see the opening and closing price contract. We're not seeing it. We're seeing a little bit more of the opening and closing price somewhat large. It's down 1% still. We have to see if this support line will hold or if we're going to pull back a little bit more and head back to, I would say, more of like this support line down in the 1870 range, if we come back down that way. Silver, another one that's got a little bit more bullish tone to it. I mean, bearish tone for silver. The opening and closing price engulfs the days before it. This usually indicates a move lower. Now, we've got support underneath it. It's at 24.50. We'll have to see if that holds and if this is a true candlestick day where we test that support at 24.50. Platinum basically had a sideways day. We have a lot of downside momentum in this sell-off here. We're coming back up and the buyers aren't stepping in. Looks like it wants to go sideways to lower, is what I'm seeing with the near-term candlesticks for platinum. The mining companies still outperforming gold itself, so people are still preferring the mining companies over the precious metal. This means, this is good. It's good because usually the mining companies outperform during the bull market. And if they're outperforming here, maybe the metals just haven't caught up yet. Looking at Karora Resources, it looks like we're coming into some resistance area. We're hitting our head on something. Hitting our head on some sellers up there for KRRGF. EXK, another one that's looking like it wants to do a retest move off after this descending wedge type breakout. Again, I like it down here. This is where I accumulate shares. We've got Fortuna Silver Mines, small little down day, but the momentum's up. This is a bullish, engulfing, piercing day. So I still think it looks okay. It still looks good. We're still making higher lows and higher highs. Everything's still in check. SILJ, again, we've broken out of this little pattern. And I would suspect that we're going to continue to make higher lows, higher highs until we don't. So we got to wait and see what happens. GDX, again, we've broken out of this downtrend line. Here's the downtrend line of the pattern. We've broken that, and we're just chopping sideways. Everything looks good. We are above this support line here. So even if this were to pull back, I would be a buyer of it. We'd have to break below it. And I think it's a pretty low likelihood that we're going to break below that line. Metallic minerals, this guy's just been moving sideways for a while. We opened lower, closed up. Momentum's going to the upside, so that's a good thing. Koya Resources, this is going to probably do a back test on this line here. So don't be afraid if this thing comes back and does some smooching with this line here. Don't be afraid. Discovery Silver looking like it's taken a detour lower. This is definitely a strong move to the downside. It finished quite strong. It looks like we might have a little bit more downside on this. This could be in more of like an ABC correction, A, B, and then a C correction, and then we could buy it down there if it does something like that. I'm not saying it will, but this does look like it wants to sell off. AG's been hanging in there. Small little down day. We've got the big breakout line here going to the right side. We're coming on up. Everything looks intact. Newmont Corporation, it looks good with the bullish engulfing pattern today. That usually signifies a move higher. Looking at Mag Silver, this guy has a little bit more of a sell-off today. It's still within its pattern, and it's coiling up. Yamana Gold, just moving sideways with a small down day. Everything still looks okay. I probably wouldn't be a buyer up here. This is a pretty big move in a very short period of time. We might have a return move out of it. Impact Silver, more of a larger down day. Looks like we want to continue moving sideways. Aftermath Silver is in this channel moving sideways. Looks like Arcana Silver had a little bit of action today. Still looks like it wants to go sideways. PLG, small little down day. Everything's looking good. We're getting a little return move out of this move. And then we've got Siboney, Stillwater, bullish engulfing. I still think it's going to go higher. The small down days, big up days. Still looks good. Sandstorm Gold's trying to fight out of its little resistance area. We're right at resistance. You can see it by the candlestick tops here. These little candlestick tops. We just got to break through it. Franco-Nevada, again, that one's right up against its support line. It's got to try to break through it at some point. Could we do a detour back down here one last time? We very well could. So, you know, we'll see what happens. EMX, right at that resistance area. We got to break through it. That's all we got to do. Is buyers got to come in here and break through that resistance. And Teuton Resources, it's been on vacation doing the sideways move in that channel there. Wheaton Precious Metals against its resistance line. It wants to break upward. Gold Royalty, a small little update. Momentum's coming back down a little bit. That's why it's a red candlestick. It still looks okay. You know, it's got a downtrend. It's got to break that downtrend line. Metallo Royalty, this is one I did buy in the donations portfolio. I do like it in this kind of general vicinity. I'm just throwing money in, guys. It's not bad, but we've got a nice, good break of that, and we've got a long-term support area underneath it. So I like that. Mavericks Metals is another one that's sitting on top of support. There it is. We might just grind up here for a little bit before moving higher, depending on what gold and silver do. Royal Gold's been holding strong, guys. It's been holding strong. You know, Cisco Gold Royalty, it wants to do a little sell-off today back to its support area. Again, not a bad area, I think, to be looking after it accumulates a little bit. You know, it stops that downward momentum. But overall, guys, we'll see what happens next week. There's a little bearishness in there. There is in the chart patterns of gold and silver. We'll see if it gets support at those support lines. Again, I am an ultra bull on this because we've got inflation. We have all the market conditions in place for money to rotate into this stuff. It doesn't mean that you're just going to get one large continuous rotation of money in it. It just means that the conditions are favorable for this to go higher. Just because the short term doesn't go higher doesn't mean that you should turn bearish on it. You should be bullish as long as the market conditions and ratios are bullish for it. That's how I play the game. If the conditions are ripe, that's when you win. If the conditions are wrong, usually you're not going to do very well. But the conditions are ripe for gold and silver. I think we're going to go higher at some point. Short term, we could have a small little pullback before that going higher materializes. Give me a thumbs up for the content, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.